Hello, I'm Catriona Morten. I'm a sensory motor psychotherapist, and I'd like to talk to you today about developmental trauma. When we think of trauma, we think big events, accidents, really dramatic things happening to us. And a lot of people that I work with, when they first come to see me, they will say things like, I don't know why I'm like this, I don't know why I'm affected like this, I don't know why I'm so afraid of things, because I haven't had any trauma in my life. Nothing terrible has really happened to me. And when we start looking back at what their experiences were like growing up, what it was like for them, then often what we see is a pattern of things just being very unpredictable, or our needs being consistently not met, or our needs being met sometimes and then not other times, or big changes in our life when we're growing up, from things being really nice and stable to everything just turned on its head. Those things we call developmental trauma. It's as significant, if not more significant. It has a massive impact on the way that we form our belief systems about ourselves, the patterns of behaviour that we have, how avoidant we are, how we are in relationship, and how we recognise what our needs are. The problem with developmental trauma is it gets so hardwired into our nervous system, our whole body, the mannerisms we have, how adaptive we are, how we react to things. Sometimes it's other people noticing things about us and, getting those consistent comments from people, or we're just aware that either we can't adapt to change, or we have these cyclical patterns happening in relationships, intimate relationships, friendships, that we just know things aren't right. We might have some idea that some of these maybe traits or events from our childhood have had an impact on us, but we don't know why and we don't know how. When we work with developmental trauma, we have to work with the body, because everything is imprinted, stored, plays itself out through the body. Developmental trauma is really, really misunderstood and completely undiagnosed in most instances, because it doesn't come with what the DSM tells us. It doesn't come with what the diagnostic criteria of PTSD or trauma comes with, because very often people who have developmental trauma, they have no flashbacks. In fact, one of the aspects, one of the kind of giveaways for developmental trauma is, can you remember your childhood? What's your earliest childhood memories? What do you remember about growing up? A lot of my clients have very little memory. They'll say, I don't know, or I've got huge chunks missing in my memory. That's a real indicator that there's quite possibly some developmental trauma. What happened to those memories? Where are those memories being stored? Were they too painful at the time to be part of our conscious memory system? Often as we're going through treatment, sometimes some of those memories start coming back. We're able to put things into order a lot better. So the things that come up for a diagnosis of trauma or PTSD often are completely missing for developmental trauma, but it leaves people saying, well, then what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why do I get super anxious at certain things? Why can I not do certain things? Why do social gatherings just fill me with absolute dread and horror? Why is change so difficult? Why is life just so difficult? Why can't I hold down a relationship? What's going on? What's playing itself out? A lot of the time, psychiatrists, doctors will not recognise or really understand developmental trauma. We're kind of told to get a hobby, take your mind off things, get a behaviour strategy in place for that. But it doesn't change what's underlying in what we've brought from, what wounds we've got, what unmet needs we've got from our childhood. Those things are really significant, and unless we recognise them, see how they play out, give them some healing, understand what's going on so that we can manage things in a really helpful way through regulation and through resources, then we're relying on willpower or forcing ourselves to do something differently and hoping it becomes a habit, which is really, really hard work and often doesn't work. When we can really understand what our body's doing and why it makes sense back then, maybe that was the most effective way of dealing with things. If going really, really quiet and silent and invisible and small was the best thing to do, then it's what we're going to continue to do but not really understand why. Those circumstances have changed, so surely everything's different and I should be able to do things differently, and the way that I want to do them doesn't work that easily, because it does get hardwired into our nervous system and into all the kind of movements and the things that we do. Those younger parts of us, they don't know that things are different now, and so they don't know that the person in front of them isn't scary or isn't going to say either don't look at me or look at me when I'm talking to you. Those things, if they've happened to us consistently, they still play out, and it's because it's trauma, it's developmental trauma. It's just like layers and layers and layers and layers of things that happen on a consistent basis, and we have to bring it into the present day, bring all those mannerisms up, look at them, know why they made sense, and have a different new experience with them and find the resources that are needed to help. So sometimes it's a kind of a completion of something new that needs to happen, then we've got a new neural pathway, and it's not just the habitual thing we do. If our nervous system's really activated as we're trying to do things differently, then we need to know how to regulate it and what resources work for us in order to be able to be the way that we want to be. What things from the past are now stopping you being the person that you want to be? When we can work with those things and find them and see them and sense them in the body, then we can either process some of the trauma that needs to be processed, we can widen our window of tolerance to our capacity to cope with things, we can learn how to regulate if it makes us really, really anxious, what helps us breathe and be able to just be a bit more present and centered and solid in our arms and our legs, so that we don't go into those old patterns, those old, younger ways of dealing with things. We really know how to stand in our adult, look after our frightened little parts, but be able to be the adult that we want to be able to be seen, be heard, meet our own needs, know what our needs are, set boundaries. Those are things that are all really, really important in everyday life, but developmental trauma can make them very, very difficult, but our head won't know why. Body absolutely knows why, plays it all out, but the head will decide it's about things that are going on in present time, which it usually isn't. It's just a reaction, a response to these things. I really hope that makes sense. If you've got any other questions about developmental trauma and how it's affected you, or is it affecting you, then drop them in the comments below and we'll have a look at them. We'll love getting them. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe below, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye!